Hey, what is going on, my friends, and welcome back to another video on the channel. Well, as you can probably tell from the market, from the Twitter, from YouTube, from everything, crypto is pumping right now and people are really excited because we're finally starting to see some of the bullish momentum that it seemed that we needed in order to get this bull run continuing. But in today's video, I don't necessarily want to, spread any doubt or spread any negativity, but I think there are a few things that we need to keep a clear and close eye on to make sure that these signals that we are getting are true indicators of a bullish reversal and not just a sign of a fake out. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We'll kind of just be taking a look at a few things that I think will be super important to just pay close attention to. And if we can clear these things, I think we could really see some new all-time highs coming. So for all of you new viewers out there, I will let you know that I do have a Patreon. Now in this Patreon, you get access to many things from my trades, my trade alerts. You get early access to these videos. You get updates on any trades I'm doing. You get my technical analysis, research reports on cryptos, and so much more. So go down to the link in the description and go check it out. Also, if you are looking to expand out into a new brokerage or start your own investment journey, I highly recommend using the referral link down below. It'll bring you over to Webull, and they just updated their policies. If you sign up and create an account and deposit $100, you can get 2 free stocks valued all the way up to $2,300. This is a fantastic opportunity, and it makes sense for everyone to take advantage of because who doesn't like those odds? You have no risk, and it's just free stocks, right? So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's jump into these charts here because what we're going to really be looking at is Bitcoin. As we do know, a lot of the different cryptos, especially, our more major altcoins, ADA, Ethereum, XRP, Polygon, all of these for the most part have been following for the most part what we are seeing from Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin does kind of dictate where we are seeing a lot of altcoins go. Now I know a lot of altcoins are outperforming Bitcoin, but overall upwards or downward momentum in general is going to be dictated by Bitcoin. So we're going to take a look at the short term, midterm, and long term. We're going to talk about a few things that I'm seeing and things that I think we need to keep an eye on. So we've been paying very close attention to this symmetrical triangle that we have been seeing recently. We were tracking some of these different breakouts. We were tracking some of these different retracement zones. I mean, we have been seeing Bitcoin's prices hit these zones in which we were targeting like money, right? So I remember we had this big upward momentum. I was like, look, we're probably going to see a retest. As soon as we saw that breakout in the triangle, we set our target here. We had a few people who went on that shorting opportunity. They shorted Bitcoin. Boom. As soon as we saw this little bitty touch here, bam, got their profits. From there, we did see a downward continuation all the way back down to the very bottom of the symmetrical triangle. From there, I said, look, I think this thing has enough momentum. Let's see if it goes in on a retest. A lot of my Patreon members actually did get in on this trade, but it was on ADA. We all, I don't want to say we all, but personally speaking, we just did like a small $1,000 trade on ADA whenever we hit somewhere around this bottom, with the price prediction being somewhere, around this upper channel, just based off of following Bitcoin charts and following ADA charts. But we'll talk about that in another video. But overall, we set our price target here. As we can see, we went from our swing high to our swing low. As we can see, we saw a lot of resistance around that 382 to that 0.5, which was expected. We saw some resistance, boom, establishment of support, and then that big breakout. As soon as we saw this big breakout here, this bullish candle, I almost immediately knew that we were going to finally test that 618, but I was not expecting in one candle on the 4-hourly to not only break through, but break through the upward side of our, I almost said isosceles triangle, our symmetrical triangle here, and then continue upwards, and then to establish a candle on top of it. And if we can get a close up here, I mean, that would be absolutely phenomenal. That's insane. And the rate in which we just broke through is absolutely fantastic, right into our price range, right into our gold target. And I'm super excited to see this thing moving in our targets because, as I've said in multiple videos, even when the market is consolidating, there are gains to be made that are very honestly easy to track, right? Especially whenever we're in a symmetrical triangle of this nature, we can see just how perfectly it moves within it. And so using our fib retracements, we can find these areas easily, right? So on the short term, I would actually say that things are looking great, right? I would say for the most part that I'm not seeing anything that's kind of like, oh my goodness, we need to watch out for that, or it might be bearish, you know what I mean? The only thing that I would say is that we just need to pay close attention to how we see, a retest, okay? Because personally speaking, I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin start to kind of fall a little bit from the levels it's at. I mean, this is a very nice run up, and we know, typically speaking, for a healthy run up like that, we will see a bit of a pullback. That's totally normal, and it's nothing to worry about. As we can see, like whenever we'll see little run ups like this, we'll see these little minor pullbacks there. So on the short term, I would be looking to see, okay, If it pulls back, where does it pull back to? You know, maybe we get a full close here, and then from there we get maybe a minor retest back to the top of this this symmetrical triangle that we saw on top of that trend line would be absolutely fantastic. If we could close up here, that would be great. But of course, we do need to pay attention to, okay, well, even if we can't, it's not the end of the world, but we need to see exactly where are we going, right? Because if we start to get a close in here and we hit our heads up here, and then we start to see a fallback down, I mean, this could be a big fake out. So pay close attention. One thing that I will say right now is that I always look for that back test of support, right? I always almost every single time, right? So we traded this thing. We traded this thing from point A to point B, right? Let's just say the trade initiated somewhere around here, point A to point B. Okay. So we got that first trade, right? From here is when I just chill. Yeah. On ADA, we're almost at our take profit, but not just yet. But one thing that I will say with Bitcoin speaking, if you got in here and you got your profits here, or you haven't done anything at all and you're just waiting, I don't think right now is the time, right? Personally speaking, just for myself, just so I can have the full utmost confidence in my trades, I just don't think the time. What I look for is that back test of support. Okay. So we kind of seen a minor backtest of support, and if I go down to the hourlies, you can see what I'm talking about. You can see that we are seeing that fall that I'm looking for, but it's typically a little bit more, significant, okay? Just typically from Bitcoin, what we'll see is more of a downtrend start on the short term, then an establishment of support, and then a true uptrend can begin after that, and that establishment of support is what I always look for. So in the short term, personally speaking, before buying anything, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm looking for that backtest of support. Of course, Bitcoin could do this. It could. And then there's just that anomaly, and then I'm just wrong, and everyone's going to grill me in the comment sections. But just personally speaking, just for my own confidence, I look for that back test of support. So let's go ahead. Let's jump onto the midterms here, and we can kind of see what is going on and, what we can be expecting on the midterm here. So what I'm going to do is let's go back out to let's try the 4 hours. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so what we can see, I'm going to jump out to the dailies actually. So again, what we have here, of course, we did have that symmetrical triangle in which we were trapping. We were trapped in, and what we finally saw was once we did establish some support on that 0.5 here from our swing low to our swing high on a very long-term perspective, we can see that we are now full-blown operating into an uptrend bullish channel. So that's great. That's great news. What we're looking to see, though, is that upward continuation. So say, like we did say on the short term, if we do fall in here, okay, and then boom, maybe even if we do start getting stuck on that triangle that we saw. On the short term, that's not going to be the best thing, and there may be some shorting opportunities, or that may be the setup for a long-term play. But of course, then on the short term, we always have to zoom back out to the midterm, and then we'll go to the long term, and then we can see that that wouldn't be the necessarily end of the world, because we are still operating within a channel that gives us enough support, hopefully, to be able to push back out of it. So what I would say is, if we do start to see that fall, if we do see this thing continue, maybe to consolidate, if we do see it start to fall, though, and we maybe break through, it's not the end of the world. Zoom out and pay close attention. Can we bounce off of this, right? This is an established level of support, and it's there for a reason. What we're looking to see happen is, boom, maybe if they have that fall there, then we start to push back up, maybe find some resistance, and then pop back up, which could give us our break all the way back up to some of these highs that we were seeing in the 26th, 25th, and 24th of May. So pay close attention. On the short term, watch for this, right? Watch to see how we interact with these different levels, because they are important, right? You can't just zoom in on the short term and say, oh, this looks great, we're in an uptrend, and if we fall back down below this, this line here, it's just the end of the world. No, you got to look at it on a more long-term perspective and say, okay, what happens now? If we see this, if we do see this fall through, at that point, I would get nervous. Okay. At that point, I would say, oh man, this looks like a fake out. Okay. So we need to watch out for that. Before you start getting FOMO, before you start seeing the prices just absolutely climbing, we have to pay close attention and say, okay, as we can see, this very clear resistance is being set. As we can see, we had clear support being set there. We're operating within an uptrend, and Bitcoin tends to operate within these uptrends until there is a very, dramatic level of support established. I would say the first level of support I would be looking to is just this previous high, right? That would be fantastic. If we can set support upon this previous high above that trend line that we saw from our triangle, I think that would be beautiful, and that would be a great level of support to really see a retest back up to this upwards 42,000 mark. But we just need to pay attention to this before you start FOMOing in, before you get too excited. Pay attention to see, okay, is there a retest? Is there a back test of support? If there's a back test of support, where's it going? If it falls through this, not the end of the world. Make sure that we can see some support get established on this upward trend line here on the downward side. Now, once that happens, let's take a look at the long term, because on the long term, we still have to pay attention to something. And that's the fact that we have a lot of growing to do. Okay, so what I want to take a look at is we're actually going to take a look at something that was provided to me by one of my Patreon members. Shout out to ATI. And this is going to be a speculation that is going on right now based off the Wyckoff, the Wyckoff theory, right? It's more like a conspiracy at this point, but overall. So this is basically going to be, in a very short, oversimplified, very dumbed down version, the rules in which we will see some of these major market manipulators play by in order for them to win, right? To shake out a lot of the small retail investors and for them to be, enter into these full-blown accumulation phases, okay? So one thing that I will say is that many people are starting to believe that this is true. And personally speaking, I don't think it is coincidence that we are seeing it start to move. Now, am I saying it's a Wyckoff theory? I don't know. That's what I will say. I don't think anyone knows. But one thing we can see is we can gauge the market's reactions to this, because I truly believe that as more people start to believe this is what it is, it will slowly become that as people start to anticipate it, right? So as we can see here, we're looking at this $45,000 mark as our price target if we are following this correctly. One thing that I will say is we have followed this thing pretty accurately up until this point. And now we are looking at, we're currently sitting right around here. So, I mean, we are working our way up there. Okay. So one thing that I will say is that on a long-term perspective, yes, sure, we might hit 42, 43, 44,000. But as more people are starting to believe that this is the Wyckoff theory, I think it will influence the price to start to see this. So what does that mean? Well, that means for me, personally speaking, that we may, at levels like 44,000, at 44,500, right before we hit that 45,000 mark, we may see a big sell-off as people anticipate that we would see a sell-off at 45,000. People are going to try to get ahead of the curve and we could see a fall. How much of a fall? I'm not sure, because if it's not the Wyckoff theory, we may not see it fall all the way back down to 25,000. Okay. But what I do think we need to pay close attention to is if people start to anticipate that, and if we do start to see a big sell-off here, that could be a massive shorting opportunity. Now, it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that at the 45,000 mark, we are looking at direct mid-channel, right? We're looking at a direct mid-channel between 382 and 5, right? I mean, that's directly in the middle at 45,000. And it doesn't surprise me. We see resistance at bottom channel, boom, mid-channel, top channel. We see it all the time. And it doesn't surprise me again that we are looking at a direct mid-channel at 45,000, which means that there's already going to be some resistance there. So overall, sure, we may see this thing over time climb all the way back up there, which represents almost a 20% gain. But on a long-term perspective, pay close attention to how this operates. What I think the best move to play here is to have a sliding stop loss. That's what I would say. Okay, that's what I've been doing in my Patreon on our ADA trade, that $1,000 ADA trade. I've been saying slide that stop loss because this thing could fall at any point. You never really know. Okay, we've not confirmed we are not out of this big downtrend because we have a lot of growing to do. Right? These are the price projections. This is the 51,000 to 57,000. We need to clear those levels before we can say that the bear market is out of the question and the bull market is going to continue. So what we're looking at here, right? We need to slide that stop loss. If you're on a trade, on my ADA trade, I'm sliding my stop loss all the way up with it. We're already in guaranteed profits, which is nice. We got in at like 170, I believe. So we're already in guaranteed profits. But what I would say is that as we do approach these levels, right, start to pay attention to, okay, where do we have resistance? Where do we have support? Anticipate where we may see some of that support fall to. And if you get in here, right, boom, and we start to see some of these trade up and we start to see this retest, maybe a little bit of consolidation here, and then we start to push up towards that, I wouldn't blame you for setting a stop loss at 40, maybe at the bottom under here. Say if we fall back down below this, once we start getting that thing, 42,300, you go in, you set that stop loss there just in case we see that big fall off. I can't blame you. If you're trading this thing, I can't blame you for having that sliding stop loss. And you just saw some massive gains there. I mean, even if that is the case, I mean, you're looking at 16% gains on Bitcoin, which is fantastic, especially in the short term in a consolidational period. Okay. Now, if you're long term in this thing and you just want to buy some now, and if it falls, you just buy some more, go ahead and do that. I can't blame you. But I'm really appealing more to those investors who are really just starting to kind of FOMO in. They're starting to see this break that we were looking for. And then they're getting super excited. And my whole goal here is to say, okay, yeah, things are looking good, but understand we have a lot more growing to do. And these are very, these are things that we need to keep a very close eye on to ensure that we are looking at a reversal. So again, just on the short term, let's look for that retest. Let's look for that bounce. Let's see exactly what is going to happen with that. If we can establish some support and if that will lead to some growth on the midterm, let's see if we are going to continue to interact with the bottom of this upward channel here. And if that is the case, that could lead us to some great support to start to retest some of those 43,000 levels. And if from those 43,000 levels, if that is the case, we need to pay close attention to the conspiracies and the theories behind the Wyckoff theory itself, because I think that it can have influence on people to make them make emotional decisions because they're scared of it. Okay. So overall, let's just pay close attention to that, right? I'm very happy with what we're seeing. I'm up a good bit on a lot of my trades, especially on ADA. We've been buying low. I mean, I had some buys at $1.05, $1.20. So the fact that we are picking up this momentum is fantastic and I'm super excited. So with that being said though, I will keep you guys super up to date on everything that does occur. And if we do start to see some of the movements we talked about in this video, I will let you guys know. But with that being said, that is going to be about it for today's video. As you all do know, I go live every single day at 11:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. So go check it out. I'll see you guys in a few hours there, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace.